Welcome to Ukraine, with your host, Pastor Bert.
Hello, beloved. If one listens to Putin, NATO has no right to have member nations in Eastern Europe because, historically, these nations are an extension of Russia and the Warsaw Pact alliance. Let us consider the validity of President Putin's claims.
Talked a lot about security guarantees, and now we've seen your proposals. What is it, do you think, that the West does not understand about Russia or about your intentions? Thank you.
Our actions will not depend on the negotiation. They will depend on the unconditional compliance with the Russian security demands today and in the historical context. In this sense, we have made it clear that any further NATO movement to the east is unacceptable. There is nothing unclear about this. No. On the other hand, the US is deploying its missiles close to our home, on the porch of our house.
We begin with a map of Europe showing the original NATO members. 2. The Soviet Union while it existed. And 3. The Warsaw Pact states. I would ask you to remember specifically the states in red and pink, because this represented the Soviet Empire at its zenith. Now, I would like to show you a piece of evidence. This is a translated letter from then President of Russia, dated September 5th, 1993. This translation actually comes from the United States Department of State. The U.S. State Department made this letter public on June 15, 2016. In this letter, President Boris Yeltsin states a number of facts concerning Russia, the Soviet Union, I will scan for you the entire letter in total so that you can stop and replay all of the letter and read it in detail for yourself at your own. I will focus on reading and explaining the relevancy of those sentences underlined in red by me, but I encourage you to read the entire letter because I believe you will learn much about the true nature of the Warsaw Pact country. The sentences I have underlined in red read as follows. Dear Bill, President Yeltsin is writing to U.S. President Bill Clinton. President Yeltsin testifies to these facts as they are known and accepted by the Russian government as true and factual. Quote, we express our appreciation of the sovereign right of any state to choose how it ensures its own security. Of the East Europeans, of the Warsaw Pact, they do have ground for an amount of apprehension about their security. President Putin is quite familiar with this letter from President Yeltsin, and he has never questioned or refuted the accuracy or veracity of this letter, or that is anything but a true statement of Russia's status extended to these Warsaw Pact states. This sentence directly refutes and proves false President Putin's claims of these states' status and rights, and President Putin's claims to them. These are President Putin's own words, which these words from President Yeltsin deny. Our actions will not depend upon the negotiation. They will depend on the unconditional compliance with the Russian security state and to the historical context. And in this sense, we have made it clear that any further NATO movement to the east is unacceptable. There is nothing unclear about this. No, on the other hand, the U.S. deploying its missiles at our home on the porch of our house. President Yeltsin's contradiction is that President Yeltsin factually states that each of Warsaw Pact states, therefore including Ukraine, is sovereign, with the right of any state to choose how it ensures its own security. Therefore, any Warsaw Pact state is not the porch on Russia's home, because Russia's stated legal policy is that each Warsaw Pact state has this sovereign right, including Ukraine. Is just not a country. But he has no argument or evidence to support that position whatsoever. Russia's position as a nation has been, prior to Putin's time, as President Yeltsin has instead said that Ukraine is sovereign, a sovereign country. Therefore, there has been no treaties or acts taken by Russia's federal legislation to abandon Ukraine is a, quote, sovereign country, unquote. Nothing has changed in the terms of law or evidence to redefine Ukraine as anything but a sovereign, independent country fully empowered to manage its own security. Or any Warsaw Pact state is not the porch on Russia's home, because Russia's stated legal policy is that each Warsaw Pact state has this sovereign right. To reverse this Russian policy would require the issuing of a signed written directive by President Putin or some future Russian president, and the approval of the Russian federal legislature, all of which has never taken place. President Putin makes another fictional. Putin accused the United States and NATO that in its aggressive anti-Russian policy, the West has crossed every line. Where exactly are these every line the West has crossed? The use of the word line, as in every line, implies a written word in an agreement or international treaty, or failing that existence of these, then at least exchanged diplomatic letters at any level defining policy between nations. Clearly, when President Yeltsin wrote this letter to U.S. President Clinton, there were no such lines. Only the actions of independent states such as Russia, the United States, or by Russia's own definition, sovereign Warsaw state like Ukraine. Under President Putin, if a Warsaw state considers today joining NATO, their nation is invaded. Under the preceding Russian administration, President Yeltsin's response was to, in his letter, tell U.S. that in the future Russia itself might, what? Join NATO as well? This is not a hostile act. Rather than invading sovereign Warsaw states, as Putin has illegally done, this same letter proposes reforms to strengthen the international law to enable Warsaw states like Ukraine to enter into security like NATO with even greater certainty. Yeltsin offered these positive suggestions. We, that is Russia, we would be prepared together with NATO to offer official security guarantee the East European states with an accent on ensuring sovereign territorial integrity, inviolability of frontiers, and maintenance of peace in the Such guarantees could be embodied in a political statement or a cooperative agreement between the who? This is who? The Russian Federation and NATO. Bravo, President Yeltsin. You came as an advocate for world peace, rule of law, and building bridges between nations, while unfortunately, President Putin, who followed you, came as a traitorous spy to deny peace and promote war. If Russia's Putin ever saw NATO as a threat, how is it that instead of fighting NATO's expansion in April 2004, Putin's response to NATO's acceptance of 7 new nations, including 1. Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, and Slovenia, Putin meeting with Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder of Germany, played down NATO's expansion and instead stated that his Russian government would closely monitor the deployment of NATO forces and, quote, guide our defense and security policy correspondingly, unquote. What? Where's the outrage? Where's the threat of World War III? Is Putin's demand for nuclear war then merely a contrivance to strengthen desperate military position? Since Putin became president of Russia, never has Putin ever joined into any diplomacy to establish any agreement with NATO on anything. So when President Putin lyingly charges bad faith upon the US and NATO, he has not a single line, let alone every line, that the West has crossed, because there has never been any such trail, or every line Putin claims are nothing then but fictions based upon his and only his law, not even the policy of the federal state. Are the people of Russia in favor of a war and Armageddon, or do they hope for a peaceful upon which to build a democratic government as the Constitution of Russia provides? Was Yeltsin foolish and naive? No, Yeltsin was a breath of fresh air who even had working all for freedom for all nations. If darkness yet remains, thank you, Boris Yeltsin, that you gave us that light of your inspiration in our darkest hour. Not every step forward is successful. Many times, if failure occurs, others must step forward and lead. The change President Yeltsin gave to us was hope, love, and faith in the human spirit. We must be resolute as never to give up. Be sure to return for our next episode for more truthful analysis. The next episodes will be more serious, much stronger, shocking, and in the end, hopefully a new beginning for humanity. Humanity now faces very challenging times. The evidence, the facts to be presented are not even known by the CIA or the KGB. The secrets and the evidence are only known by 2 people, Putin and myself. This coming episode will be hopefully empowerment for the entire world. Putin will fight these revelations as if they meant life and death, for they do to him. So be sure to prepare and don't miss these episodes to follow. Friends, thank you for visiting Welcome to Ukraine, this series, How to Stop Putin and His Nuclear War. Putin's like a puzzle. You can't begin to understand what Putin is doing unless you lay down and examine every piece of the puzzle, one piece at a time. Do this enough, and you will not only empower yourself, but all of humanity by learning of the threat and the risk to all human life. How to defeat Putin and to stop its nuclear war to save all our lives. Be sure and come back tomorrow for the next installment, for the next step also in solving this hidden puzzle. Because this issue is literally life and death for our species. Lives are at stake. Whose? Well, all of ours as well as yours. We must stand against this extinction of all mankind. We must not go quietly into the night. We must bring awareness to as many of our kind to encourage more opposition to Putin's nuclear war. Please help us to help you. Please visit us also on our parent site, Free Ukraine Gives. Remember, beloved, God loves you, so do I. Until the next time, this is your host, Pastor Bert, saying goodbye, friends.